In the history of the NBA, there have been 27 players to make the Hall of Fame without ever making an All-NBA team. And 27 sounds like a lot. But if you dive a little deeper, you'll find out that most of those guys were either stars internationally or they were coaches later on, which put them in the Hall of Fame. And amongst that 27, you have guys that were ABA players like Artis Gilmore, who was 5-time All-ABA, actually won an MVP, but clearly we are not talking about ABA, we're talking about All-NBA, right? And the most recent example I can find of someone that was not a star overseas, was not a coach, was not this crazy decorated college player to make the Hall of Fame with no All-NBA appearances is Jack Sikma, who I would say is a deserving Hall of Famer. If you look at it, he played in the era of Kareem and Moses Malone, Artis Gilmore, who we just spoke about, and then later on in his career, he had to deal with Hakeem and David Robinson, so he was never an All-NBA center. I do also believe the fact that he was a Seattle Supersonic made it more likely for him to be in the Hall of Fame because you don't want to erase that whole Seattle history. The other recent example I can find is Calvin Murphy, which might be the most inexplicable one to me. There's really nothing in his career that says he should be in the Hall of Fame. Maybe because he put up 33 points per game in college, but I just don't see any reason Calvin Murphy should be in the Hall of Fame. So there are gonna be anomalies, right? But I say all that to bring up where we are today, where the NBA made the rule change to eliminate positions from All-NBA. And at the time, a lot of people were, discussing it. It was a hot topic, but I feel like most people have moved on, rightfully so. Nothing we could do about it. But it's not something we really talk about in the context of what it actually means. And I'm not really saying I'm pro or against it. I'm just not sure we've even thought of the ramifications of it. Because I look back at some of the players from my childhood that I believe should be Hall of Famers and probably will be, maybe not, but if they are, it's gonna be because we look at All-NBA next to their names. So Amari Stoudemire, I feel like is a Hall of Famer. It really helps when you put 5-time All-NBA next to his name. 5-time All-NBA playing in an era with Tim Duncan and Kevin Garnett and Dirk and Pau Gasol and Carmelo. And Amari Stoudemire was never 3rd-team All-NBA. He was always 2nd team, and one year he made 1st team. Compare that to someone like Carmelo, who never made 1st team, and 4 of his 6 All-NBA appearances were on the 3rd team. So actually, maybe Amari Stoudemire wouldn't be the best case because it appears that he was gonna make All-NBA regardless, right? But maybe there was a year where Ray Allen maybe could have made it over him, or Jason Kidd maybe could have made it over him. But there were positions in order, so that wasn't gonna happen. Another one, Blake Griffin, 5-time All-NBA, which makes you feel comfortable saying maybe he should be in the Hall of Fame. If he was a 3-time, 2-time All-NBA player, I don't think many people would be making that argument for Blake Griffin in the Hall of Fame. But all of that is gonna change going forward. And I think about someone like Bam Adebayo, who to me is probably the best player in the NBA right now with no All-NBA appearances. The best player that's not, early 20s, right? Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm missing someone. Let me know in the comments down below if I'm missing somebody, but I think it's Bam. And that 3rd All-NBA center spot is kind of infamous for being the weakest spot, where you get guys like Antonio McDyess, Tyson Chandler, Andrew Bogut, all awesome players, right? But they don't scream All-NBA. And I do like it now because we won't have that happen anymore. But we also might have someone like Bam Adebayo not make an All-NBA team in his career. And do you want to live in a world where Bam has no All-NBA selections or DeAndre Jordan has 3? I don't know. Maybe I'm overdoing it, maybe I'm overthinking it, or maybe I'm oversimplifying it, right? But when we're having these conversations about who's better all time, one thing we point to is All-NBA. Now, it's already difficult to compare eras, but this is going to make it extremely difficult to compare eras, especially when you take into account the guys that had this rule changed on them in the middle of their prime. I've gotten into several arguments about who was better all time, T-Mac or Vince Carter. And my trump card for that argument is always T-Mac, 7-time All-NBA, Vince Carter, 2-time All-NBA. And that argument really works for me because they played in the same era. But what about in 10, 15 years when someone wants to argue, you know what? Devin Booker was actually a better player than Paul George. And I'm not taking a side on that argument, right? But if someone wants to make that argument, they're gonna look up and see Paul George 6-time All-NBA, Devin Booker 2-time All-NBA. What about like Donovan Mitchell versus DeMar DeRozan? Donovan Mitchell somehow in this point in his career is only a 1-time All-NBA player. DeMar DeRozan, 3-time All-NBA. Again, I'm oversimplifying it. And maybe I'm just being a nostalgic old head, because like I said, I do like the fact that we're not going to see a David Lee All-NBA team. We're not going to see Tyson Chandler. We're not going to see Eddie Jones. We're probably not even going to see like a Baron Davis, all one-time All-NBA guys. We're not going to see that anymore. But we also might not see a Rondo sneak into an All-NBA team. A Zach Randolph, Elton Brand, a Peja Stojakovic, Latrell Sprewell, Al Jefferson, all guys that only made one All-NBA team, and it feels right. It feels right for them to have that 1 year. But as much as that feels right, it feels wrong for DeAndre Jordan to be a 3-time All-NBA player. Sorry to pick on DeAndre Jordan, that's just the most recent example we have. And I also wonder about, Tony Parker, 4-time All-NBA. Not saying he's undeserving, but does that happen with these new rules? I love Tony Parker. I actually feel like he's underrated, but I'm not sure he would be rewarded the same way in today's NBA. Chauncey Billups, another one, 3-time All-NBA. If he was only a 1-time All-NBA player, do we look at his career the same way? Maybe, maybe not. And, a perfect example of this being Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown did not make All-NBA this year on a team that won 64 games. Now, we'll see if it changes now that he's a champion, right? But again, Tony Parker, 4-time All-NBA, Manu Ginobili, 2-time All-NBA. And I love Manu as well, but I remember looking this up for another video. There was a year Manu made All-NBA over Allen Iverson in Denver, and the stats are kind of crazy. Now, I'm not sure we'll ever get the answer to this type of question, because I don't think we're going to be seeing many teams like the Spurs coming up, but I do wonder how much winning will be a factor going forward. Because 10 years ago, I'm pretty sure Jaylen Brown gets in over Sabonis. I don't know, maybe I'm tripping. I just don't feel like we've heard it discussed in this way. And I brought up Blake Griffin and Amari Stoudemire, guys that I don't feel like would make the Hall of Fame without that All-NBA next to their name. What about someone like DeMar DeRozan, who I made a video on explaining why he's gonna make the Hall of Fame? And in that video, I made the comparison of DeMar DeRozan to Joe Johnson, who Joe Johnson is a 7-time All-Star, DeMar DeRozan is a 6-time All-Star. But DeMar is a 3-time All-NBA player, Joe Johnson is a 1-time All-NBA player. To me, that was a good distinction to make. That's not really gonna be a good distinction to make anymore. LaMarcus Aldridge, 5-time All-NBA. But if you look at his stats in comparison to someone like Zach Randolph, they're not that much different. But Zach Randolph was 1-time All-NBA compared to 5 for LaMarcus. So again, that just used to mean something that it's not gonna mean anymore. Again, I'm overdoing it, I'm overthinking it. It's not that serious, but it is a difference in how we discuss things, how we compare eras, how we have these debates. All-NBA is not what it used to be. Now, so far, it hasn't been too crazy, right? We've always had forwards, we've had centers, right? We've had point guards, obviously. But what if it gets to a point where like 10 of the 15 are guards? Will it ever get that crazy? Will it ever get to that point? Probably not, and I'm not sure how we would even react to it. They'd honestly probably end up reverting to the old format, but let me know in the comments down below what you think. Am I making any sense here? Is it even something you guys find interesting or relevant at all? Let me know in the comments down below. Please drop a like, please subscribe. We're almost at 5K. Please subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm out. Peace.